because of COVID, they couldn't come up, and because of other prior engagements from Florida. So the future Dr. Dansby flew up from Florida, Tampa, Florida, for this event tonight. I thank her so much. And some other individuals, a couple principals from Morton, who you saw in the school, you saw in the film, you saw Seminole Heights. We have representatives from the school, so they couldn't make it. So there is a beautiful woman by the name of Miss Dolly. Her government name is Dolores Jackson. And Miss Dolly gave me the inspiration for the title of the film and made me want to go deeper and see what the stories were behind the story of the kids and any other parties that are part of the whole learning journey of a kid, like learning what the teachers do. Like, I never knew about, they don't have a lot of time in their day. You know, you don't think about that kind of stuff. You don't think about the community a lot. I know how I grew up in the south side of Chicago, but learning a lot more about how Lenny grew up, and of course, learning a lot more about Tampa. So I just wanted to make sure I expressed that.
And I know, if you guys ever get a chance to go to Tampa, it's an amazing city. You know, I'll just put it that way. Just the atmosphere.
I'm still trying to hide Tampa.
Partying. It's a great city, guys. So
that's a plug for Tampa.
Go to Tampa.
Do we have any other questions? Oh.
Well, my name is Olivia Carroll. I'm a senior civil and environmental engineer major at Howard University, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, you know. So my question, I saw this at end of part 1. Is there a part 2, or how many parts? And then, if there is, what are the cities that you're looking into continuing this movement, this project?
Great question. Definitely part 2, definitely in production. I was just explaining to Micah in the booth. Mike, can you see me? I can see your shadow. He's a young, camera producer in the making, director. So it's like, finding young talent, finding other producers and supporters and sponsors to help, finish doing part 2. And then of course, series-wise, you read my mind. And we only met a little bit outside in the front. So that my energy we talking about going up to Baltimore. Got to go to my hometown, Chicago. I'm that Mr. Dwayne Walker, who flew in from Chicago, y'all. All that popcorn. I don't know if y'all know what Chicago popcorn is, but it's addictive.
That popcorn is crack.
Yes, it's crack. But Chicago, Baltimore, New York, any city that will really have us. I want to go rural. I want to go to areas where there are other black and brown kids where this story needs to be told, because that's the whole idea, is to amplify that. And to get people to understand, we need to take a look at standardized testing. We really take a hard look. This is a serious crisis, and we need to raise the war banner.
There was somebody else that had a question? I'll go here and then here. Is that okay?
Good evening. My name is Katrina McDowell. Question. My son is 6 years old. He goes to EW Stokes right on Pennsylvania Avenue. So my question was, the pre-K 3, pre-K 4 model that's only in certain states throughout the U.S., have you been able to see how that model has influenced standardized testing, from a long-term standpoint?
Thank you. So I teach at Mort Elementary. And when Roman came down, I saw the impact of his program. In Florida, we have a different method than they have here in Washington, D.C. So I wouldn't be able to answer without doing some research. And since I'm getting my doctorate, that's one of my favorite things. So I can do some research on that, but I don't have a definitive answer on how one model is better than another. I do know that the more that you engage the child and excite them about the learning process, the more they're going to retain what they learn. The third graders that were in the pilot program at Moore Elementary are now in 4th grade, and they still ask me, hey, have you talked to Mr. Roman? How's Landon doing? When are they going to come back and visit? Are we going to get to do the pilot program again? Are they going to make more books? These are children who hated reading. They barely wanted to solve their math problems. they struggled because they missed out on an entire 9-week period of second grade. And when he came to Mort and he brought this program, I didn't know anything about it. He showed up in my room and said, "Hi, I'm Roman and I need 20 Chromebooks so that I can do this program at your school." And I said, "I'm sorry, what? What are you doing at my school? Why do you need my technology?" And so I had to go check it out. And I was there for the first session and I saw the impact, because kids who would refuse to read or didn't want to show their work solving a math problem were eating this program up. And so I know it works. And so I told him, "Roman, you're stuck with me forever because I'm on board and I'm a big fan." And those kids will still come up to me, "Does he have any more books in this series? Because I've already read this book like 10 times. I've shared it with my family. My friends have read the book. They want to play the game." And so what he was able to create at our school, which is a transformation school, we have received D's and F's several years in a row. We do have children coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds. We have parents that aren't able to help them. It made a difference because they're still talking about it, and it's a year later.
When it comes back to that community aspect, and you see the children that grasp that community aspect, and you see the children that are missing it. I just wanted to comment on some of the things that grasped me. One of the things was when she was talking about how once you start to lose funding, they bring in the state, and then you see it becomes that community crisis. You start to see the children just become like the community instead of the community coming together and building up. You gotta be a community for the children to succeed. Another thing that resonated with me was when you were talking to the guy, he was talking about standardized tests. For all my educators, if there are educators in here, the one thing we always hear is differentiate, differentiate, differentiate. But the tests are standardized, right? It doesn't mix and match. So the biggest thing I heard him say was get rid of the tests. Get rid of the tests. Everything should always be, from my process, is learning to problem solve, project-based, putting all of these tools together to accomplish a goal. And that can range from a 2-year-old, ranging from having one of those toys that they have to put the shapes in, and that improves that IQ. It's proven. And then the last thing, the woman spoke, and she said she didn't really have nobody that told her to be great. And she didn't say great, but she had to look inside herself, right? And a lot of times that comes when you don't have that support. You got to really look around and resonate and understand that you're great. So that was a wonderful film, very informative. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Someone else has a question here?
Roman, this is Bubby James, Cleveland James. How you doing, man? First of all, I want to commend you and your team for putting this documentary together. I think you guys just created the tip of the iceberg. I've been an educator for 42 years, just recently retired. I've been a principal for 27 years. And alternative schools, the brother mentioned in Baltimore, I've been in those schools for several years myself as a counselor, coach. But what I want to make my point, the lady made a comment about her son in the taking the standardized test. One of the things I think parents need to start doing when they go into the preschool is to familiarize themselves those levels of academic testing that's going to be involved as they go through the elementary, middle school, and entering high school, and what it takes to get out of high school. And a lot of times, parents are not familiar with all of this, and they get caught blindsided. Now, unfortunately, we live in a fast-track world right now. Everything is on the speed level of accomplishment that needs to get done right away, and often we don't put our children in a certain pattern in a daily operation. We need to set a certain standard that they need to do every day. So if you think about it, my parents who are here The brother mentioned everybody as an educator should know this, but let me tell you, you got a lot of educated parents who are not keeping up with what's going on. I don't see my parents until I'm getting ready to suspend their child out of school. Now you want to hoop and holler and jump up and down, saying that my child, he didn't do that, he shouldn't have done that, whatever, whatever. But had you been here to find out what's going on prior to that, I think a lot more effort could have been put towards getting him prepared for his academic accomplishments. And as a close, I want to say to you, Roman, as I mentioned to you, leave the individuals in this room with a challenging question. Give them something to think about when they walk out of here. My last point is this: my parents have athletes. We hoop and holler, we go to these games, we jump up and down, we slap five, how well my son, my daughter's done this. But when they get out of high school, you say, hey, what happened to Bubby James? Oh yeah, he's down in the playground playing in the summer league. Because you didn't follow the steps necessary to move him to the next level. So again, as I close, start looking at what are the academic levels of responsibility as a parent you need to be aware of as they go through the educational system. Good job, continue. You can't stop now. You got it going.
I just want to piggyback on that. Is there anyone in here that has a third grader? Cool, I'll speak because I have a third grade black son in Baltimore City. And I think it's so important for this program because I noticed in second grade, I'm going to get emotional, I'm sorry. I get emotional when I talk about my son. My son is very athletic. I've had him in sports since he was 7 months. He started swimming. He's played soccer, basketball, and football, and ran track. My son is athletic. In second grade, when they pulled him out of school and made them virtual, I started to see a change in his academics. I pulled him out of sports. You can't give your all to sports if you're not going to give your all to academics. I had a conversation with his school. I took him out of the school that he was in. I put him in one of the better schools ever involved.
You know, I can only do but so much, and especially if I'm working 10-hour shifts. So I put my job in April, and I gave my all to make sure that he's getting the help that he needs at school, because there are programs out here they don't want to tell us parents about. They keep them hidden because of the funding and things like that. So they denied his IEP in second grade. Third grade, when he started, it's full back in session, in physical form. He gets his progress report, and it's not to my liking. I had a meeting with his teacher again, and I let him know, like, I've seen the same results. Over the 2 years that I've been working with my son, I've hired 5 tutors. They all told him the same thing. I got him tested for dyslexia. I got him tested for ADHD. His doctors are telling him there's no problems. I'm like, there's something that's not being mentioned to me. I'm doing everything I can do. I'm doing interactive learning styles at home. I'm doing YouTube learning. I'm trying to make a game out of learning, and nothing seems to be working. I finally write another letter after I go in person, have a meeting with his teacher, who just sits down, she introduces herself, I'm Miss So-and-so, I'm just jump right into the test scores. He's well below average. And so I'm thrown off, and I'm from the hood, but it takes, I try my hardest to just remain professional, because I do not want to be that black parent. I don't want to be that. Because I want you to know that I'm serious about my son's education. If nobody else is going to be serious, I'm going to be very serious. So I had a meeting with her, and she brings up these test scores, which doesn't seem that far below. I think they were off about like 12 points. And for me, that doesn't seem so drastic, but also you're leading with this information and not telling me what you're doing to help him. What are you doing? Because this is what I'm doing at home. What are you doing? Because he's spending more of his time at school than he is at home. And I don't want to drill him with doing practice works and homework when he comes home after doing 8 hours in school. We're doing 3 hours of homework. Now you want me to still do flashcards and other bullshit with him? I'm not going to drill my son that way. I wrote another letter to IEP director, and I just laid it out. Like, I've seen these issues. This is my second time coming to you guys. I need an expedited meeting. I need one, because what I'm not going to do is keep allowing my son to go through life where he's going to get to 5th grade, y'all going to hold him back, or y'all going to tell me that, oh, he's just below. I didn't know he was below in his last school until he transferred. this information is not being presented to parents, you have to, like this gentleman said, you have to get involved in your child's studies. If you know that they're lagging, we were reading something, and it's just like he can't retain the information. He doesn't want to. So I'm just like, I can't always be there. I'm not going to be able to stay out of work for so long. Like, I saved up a little money, but I'm not wealthy yet, and I need to get back to work at some point. So I just wanted to say this is a really good thing that y'all are doing, especially for people that don't have the resources or that hasn't researched the resources yet. So I commend you and your team for what you guys are doing for students who may not have access to this or who have parents that may don't care. Like, I care, and I'm struggling. So I can only imagine the students that have nobody on their side.
Well, I'm over here trying to play double dutch a little bit, right? So what I'll say is first off, you've done the first step, and that's asking for, meetings and requesting IEP, okay? I've been in litigation with 4 different school districts. I've been successful in all 4 matters. And I basically, through my coaching, I coach a 12 and under baseball team. I don't know if you know James Moshe, is the smack of West Baltimore. I'm an East Baltimore guy, so when I'm over there, I'm always watching over my shoulder. However, with that being said, I would suggest, whether if you already have the IEP or the Follow Forward plan, what I would tell you to do is make sure you get a child advocate, okay? After this, I'll make sure I have a child advocate. He's probably like 100 and up. And, the IEP school kind of process, it reminds me a lot of family law. You got to play the game, right? You got to show up to the meetings. You got to, have your advocate, say, okay, these are the objectives that he's supposed to meet. He hasn't met these. Okay, he needs a laptop now. Or we need you guys to pay for extra amount of tutoring. Because if he's in, what 3rd grade now?
Yeah, trust me, I'm my son's advocate. He's already they're paying for him to do tutoring, after school, literacy lab, and they approved his IEP. I'm not playing about my son.
And so what happens, this is what happens, right? If you play the game and continue playing it the right way with just pepper and paperwork, your son should be able to get into a private school in about 2 to 3 years.
And that's my goal, because he didn't test into Our Lady of Victory, which has prompted me to move him to the school that he is, to prepare him to go to private school, where the student-to-teacher ratio is 12 to 1 instead of 26 to 1.
Well, and it's fine. It's just all I'm telling you is, Mom, just continue playing the game. This is normally, a consultation type of situation, but if you stay vigilant, play the game, your son will be in private school, because as we know, there's not enough funding, right? And a lot of times in the schools, there are not enough parents that are staying vigilant in regards to being on it. And you don't have to be the angry mom. You literally can just, once again, advocate, and then once they start seeing that Esquire start snooping around and asking for those documents, that's when everything starts to change. So you'll be more than fine, and I think everybody needs to hear the word IEP, because what happens is when you start to, you're somebody like myself that was talented, but certain things kind of didn't get, I would say, diagnosed. Then when you kind of go through life as an adult, you start to realize that you're missing certain things, right? Certain things in regards to diligence. Why am I waking up 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's the only time I get work, right? So sometimes all the time, don't call me before 8, don't call me after 8, because I have to be in bed by 8 o'clock, because I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning. Between 2 and 6, I get all my work done. I cannot get work done before 8 o'clock. But as I've gotten my diagnosis, as I've started to work on, they call it mental health, but it's a lot of different things. You start to realize it. So I'm glad you're doing it for your son at such an early age. To stay on, because you never know. And in regards to testing, I think testing in school, I used to tutor the SAT, right? One of the things I'll tell you to do for your son, if you do want your son to play any type of college ball, just understand he can start taking the SAT in 7th grade. The SAT is not a test, just like the LSAT. It's not a test that you'll be able to walk into, right? Get the books. Those things do not work for students that are below. If you want to do well in the LSAT, when I tutor, I tell you, if you can't score 150 on the LSAT, you have to start at the bare bottom. There's no point to go pay for a Kaplan or anywhere else for those types of courses. Same with the SAT. If you start with the wording, you start with everything in 7th grade, by the time you get to 11th grade, we'll have a score. That's what all the private school parents do. They start taking the SAT in 7th grade. For some reason, we don't start, they don't come into, well, this is 10 years ago, I was tutoring. They didn't start coming to me until, you know, the 10th, 11th graders, and by then I'm like, they're so behind. I can get them to 1100. I can't get them to a 13, 1400. I think they moved it to like a 2600 eventually, or something of that nature. But when I was tutoring it, it was 1600 was the highest score. So just something to think about in regards to testing. It's just a lot of repetition and just stick with it.
Let me just say one thing. I know you mentioned SAT, but
I know I look good. Like before I shaved my hair this summer, my late friend, I looked a lot like him, and so he used to tell me, you know, it ain't bragging, you can back it up. That's Muhammad Ali. But one of the things that I guess I'll say, and I'll keep it as short as I can, is that two things. Number one, I had the honor and the privilege of meeting Brian Stevenson a couple of weeks ago and hearing him speak. And I encourage all of you, if you haven't probably seen the movie, but get his book, but also find some very informative YouTube videos out there, because he explained this plight that we're in right now very clearly. And so I learned some things there. And while I was watching today's the full documentary, Roman and I talked for weeks now, and I've gotten a chance to see bits and pieces of it, but to see the whole documentary, I just kind of realize now the brevity of what we're dealing with. So here, I'll say this, is Brian talked about the plight from the Holocaust that happened here in our country with the indigenous people, all the way up to and through slavery and lynching and mass incarceration, and he even touched on the education system, which is what we're talking about right here. But I will tell you that we're not, and we're in DC, so this is kind of apropos, but we're not going to legislate this problem to be fixed, right? Legislation is not going to happen. Is this thing on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to have the honor in January of interviewing one of the survivors of the Greenwood Massacre in Tulsa. And I'm excited about that. It's a brother and a sister. He's 106 and she's 100 and something else older. He's the younger of the two. But we're not going to legislate this problem, because legislation by itself didn't get us into the problem, right? See, I look around the room and I'm retired. I retired in 2013 from my job, and I decided to do something with my family. So that's how we started Chicagoland Popcorn. And my wife's involved in business. My son is involved. My daughter, when she's not being an assistant principal. So I have an education heritage in my family. My sister-in-law, who's also a Delta like my wife, she's the deputy commissioner for education for the state of Minnesota. So and my father-in-law is a retired superintendent. So I'm saying we have this education system and this family. But what we realize is that legislation in and of itself is not going to help it. And so, you know, I'm corporate. I retired from corporate America, but when they were talking about upward bound, I just barely got out of high school. Just barely graduated, because I was one of those kids that could have fallen through the cracks. I had a very low GPA and just happened to do well on some of the guesses I made on this test, the standardized test, right? And so I got high enough score to get into college on something called the MLK program, right? Martin Luther King program. They sent me to school for 6 weeks in the summer, and they taught me how to learn. And one of the things that I learned there was that there was not anything wrong with me. I grew up all my life thinking something was wrong with me. And when I learned how to learn and realized, and when I had my little daughter tested when she was 5, I realized that the Ritalin for my ADHD was my father telling me, if you run through here again, I'm going to whoop your butt. And I stopped running, right? That was my Ritalin. The fix for me having dyslexia, which I have, the fix for that was me carrying around in my backpack a thesaurus, a dictionary, this is before cell phones, and a 50,000 word speller that I kept with me. And everybody, you know, wondered why I was so shy and wouldn't want to write on the board, because I couldn't spell, right? So I'm telling you all this to say that the problem is bigger than legislation, and we all grow up with these things. But one of the things that happened with Romans, who was hard to say no to, by the way, when he called my shop, we all are out chasing this thing called money, right? I'm not chasing money anymore. I'm chasing the impact, Okay, and one of the things I was telling, we all get busy with our lives, and we all get busy doing the things that we have to do to survive and want to get, make lives better for our families, and that's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do that, but if we don't do some things as collectively to help this problem, then it won't get solved. And so one of the things I realized, I'm not a teacher. I like teaching and like speaking. I'm a speaker and an entrepreneur, but one of the things that I like to do is when I used to help my wife, I'll tell you this quick story. She was an educator before she became an administrator and then retired. Is fund initiatives. So we started Chicagoland Popcorn, and originally it was a family business because I traveled all of my career. When I retired, I was running a $400 million company with 1,100 employees and 110 locations scattered throughout the U.S., Canada, and doing some things around the world. But I said I want to do something with my family because I missed out. And so now what we're doing is we're shifting. We have 2 locations, both in Indiana, and when Roman approached me, he didn't know it, but during the pandemic, when everybody was pulling back, I kept saying, what could we do to move forward? And so we started looking at all of these things going on out there, and we found this company in our neck of the woods that's doing a very good job fundraising online, virtually. Now, we had a virtual fundraiser, but I looked at that and we refined our model. So during the pandemic, what we did is we practiced. We practiced what we were doing. And we just finished several virtual fundraisers, one with the Alpha Chi chapter with Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated in Gary. And we have others, but we give 50% back. Now, one of the creative things that I'm working out with Roman is that since we give 50%, I said, Roman, I can't give anymore, but what we're asking is that if an organization that he's affiliated with wants to run a fundraiser, we're going to do 10% going to his organization to help this cause, because again, I can't spank and fire, but I can fund. And so we're going to help him fund this initiative to get the word out, and your organization can take that 40% and do whatever you want to with it. The Alpha Chi, what they did is they did mentoring and tutoring, right? Things that are near and dear to my heart. So I'm saying all that to say that we can do some things if we creatively use our minds and actually use the resources that we have, because God is putting in each one of us some type of a seed of greatness. I'm glad to hear Roman say he figured out what his calling is. All of us have a calling. But what happens is we let the issues of life snuff it out sometimes to the point where we get 50, 60, 70, 80 years old and wish I woulda, shoulda, coulda. And I'm saying don't get to that point. Do what you can right now. And now I'm gonna say this last thing is all that popcorn in the lobby, I'm not taking it back to Chicago. So if you don't take it, I'm gonna give it to the homeless people somewhere. So because I'm not taking it back to Chicago. But Roman, I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for allowing me to be on this esteemed panel. But I also want to thank each one of you for coming out today, because it starts here.
Thank you, my brother. It's 8:44. We got some more time for some questions. And Michael, I know I blew up my timeline. I don't know where to tell you to cue it up, but I tell you what. Why don't we go? We're gonna get ready. I'll let you know when we're gonna slide it in. But can we get a couple more real thoughts? Okay, I see you. Hi, who's that? Hey.
I'm gonna leave right after this real fast. Okay. So I wanted to say to everybody that in the video, movie, documentary, which I'm proclaiming it to be a movie, the first thing that I saw on there that spoke volumes is it takes a village to raise a child. And that's what we've lost. When you go to the grocery store and you see a kid with a little shopping cart, you can pick up an orange and be like, oh, you're shopping too? What color is this? Oh, this is an orange, and have interactions that way. So teaching just doesn't begin in a classroom with their preschool teacher, their kindergarten teacher, or in my case, 8th grade teacher. It begins in the community. So we have to learn to stop being in our world and be in the world as far as education is concerned. The second thing that I want to bring up is with the IEPs and the 504s, because as I say to my husband, I've been quarantined for 14 years, and y'all welcome to my life. My son, when he tested, they said that he was quote unquote too intelligent for an IEP. And I said, thank you, but no, he has Asperger's. So although he is brilliant, he still needs these services. So my job as his mom / advocate is to be in the behind of whoever I need to be in to make sure that he gets his graphic organizer, to make sure that he can carry his backpack, to make sure that he can get his scratch paper and use a regular calculator instead of a Texas T calculator for the PSAT, which they forced you to do in Prince George's County this week. All those things is what you have to do. So, like you said, you have to be the parent that is involved and know what different avenues to take, even if it's just calling the guidance counselor, calling the nurse, calling the school secretary, getting good with her, because she knows everything about everybody.
Yes, she do.
And she will tell you. So as a teacher, as a parent, as a special needs parent, and as, you know, a member of a Greek organization, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated.
That's right.
That's right. Founded by teachers. It is our job as the community to teach our young people. Not just the little ones, but the big ones as well, because they are completely brilliant. And when you get a chance, Roman, my son has created a whole math program on Minecraft, and also Edgar Allan Poe's book is on Minecraft that he created by himself from scratch.
Okay.
So he can add to your program. There you go, my daughter.
Landon's been around me too, and I know you gotta run, so I know we're gonna catch up.
Yeah.
But Landon has been around me, and some people like my good friend Vincent up here, they know I'm an ideal factory. I go bananas creating solutions. So now I got a good idea, especially as my good friend Mo just mentioned. We maybe need to create a directory of programs that are addressed and about us. Does that sound all right? Is there one already? Is there one already? Do we know? There you go. So you, again, challenging is here. Can we get a couple more real quick?
Yep, yep, I'm coming.
Good evening, everyone. George, I'm from New York. Some of you will probably, or everyone will probably tell about my accent.
I have, took the opportunity to set up a nonprofit because I think to be able to have the ability to know who you are will help with all these other things that, they struggle with. A lot of times they don't see who, people replicated that are doing great things in some of these communities. And a lot of times, that impacts them in their grades. A lot of times the different factors in reference to, not eating and all the things that were talked about. And so I thought it was a great thing. I just wanted to say that. I'll let somebody else talk. But great, keep on doing what you're doing, and anything that I can do to support. There's so many different factors, and it does take a village.
I hear the emotion in your voice. You really got a story. So again, please get in contact with us. Feedback, everything is appreciative of this. I really appreciate you guys coming up. Thank you. Did Uncle Ricky have something to say? Oh yeah.
Yeah. How y'all doing? Good. My name is Roderick Johnson. I'm an instructional coach actually in Baltimore City Public Schools. So I definitely want to talk to the young lady about the testing because I teach teachers how to teach at 30. Y'all catch that? A black man, right? So that's what I teach my young men that I work with. I have a lot of young men in my school, and I'm definitely interested in us working together so that we can make that happen, so they can see stuff like this. Because I tell them stuff like this. Some of the frat brothers tell them stuff like this, but they need to see it on the screen so they can understand that all across the country these things are happening, and this is why society is the way it is. They see the rappers, but they don't see the image consultants behind the rappers.
Right.
So those are the things that I teach my young men when they say, oh, they want to do these things, or they want to sing, or they want to do all that. You don't chastise them, you give them an experience, and you tell them how to act and how to dress based on what they want to do. So you definitely got to remember that. And to my teachers, remember, you're creating something that these students have never saw before. So you got to make it experience. You got to make it something they can grab on. And then the parents, when you're talking to teachers, and I know sometimes our emotions are really high, you got to stop and think and ask questions. When you have a testing question, you ask what measure are they being tested in. I have so many parents that request the IEPs, and their student, it's not that they can't read, it's that they don't know the letter sounds. If you don't know your letter sounds, you're not going to be able to put them together to make words. So these are the things you got to ask when you're talking to your teachers. And to you, my frat brother, I will tell you that if you need anything from the Johnson experience, we can definitely support you, and we'll definitely join the mission to get this done.
Thank you, my brother. Because I have this vision, and I'm going to Uncle Ricky. My uncle who played tennis. I have this vision that when we get other sponsors and producers, that the Divine Nine will have a bigger initiative to get behind on this. I have this crazy dream. I'm hoping that y'all help make it true.
Hi everybody. First I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the film. My name is Ricky Missouri. I'm a retired social worker I work for Prince George's County Department of Family Services. And my division was children, youth, and families. So I just wanted to make an observation. In this educational system, in the juvenile justice system, and all these systems, parents and people are going to hear a lot of acronyms. And you may not know, there may be some people here that don't know what they mean, but we probably heard IEP here at least 30 times. That stands for Individual Education Plan. And if you don't know what that means, what these acronyms mean, and these terms, like the other gentleman mentioned, level 5 schools, yeah, those are schools that are not regular schools in the public schools, but they are for kids with behavioral problems, and if they can't make it in that setting, then they go to a confined setting, which is level 6. They go to a place. And so if you don't know what these terms, and it's real, it can be real intimidating sitting in these IEP meetings with the psychologist and the principal and the teacher and so forth. But if you don't understand, I really like, I think it was you, it was talking about how she advocated for her child, and you have to, if you don't understand what they're saying, you know, you have to just make them break it down simpler until you do understand. And so, you know, I just want to make that observation that, you know, that's very important. IEP is an individual education plan, and it has goals and objectives that are supposed to be carried out and met. And if they're not met, then that's what the whole discussion is about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, Micah, can you